welcome back to MCOC AlBundyRules for the third and final video for Variant 6. This is going to be Chapter 3. I've already got Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 videos up, so be sure to take a look at them if you need help on completion, item-free completion, or help on the bosses for Chapter 1 or 2 of Variant 6. Here we have our Chapter 3, starting off on 3.1. And on this first fight, I used Carnage some in Chapter 2, had a little fun with him, decided we'll go ahead and bring him. Really, I brought him only just to get there. This first fight is my goal, mainly based on advantages on the nodes for bleed advantages. So I figured he should be able to get through this void, hopefully. My goal is to make sure I can get a solo on this, and that's all I really am asking out of Carnage. And we'll see how this goes. So far it's going fairly well, losing some health, but of course Void can cause a lot of damage over time, and we've seen quite a lot of that on Carnage, but I did get the solo, which is all I really wanted, so I can get into the rest of my team I had brought. But there are advantages as far as on keeping them bleed extra attack for these nodes. So that is what I am trying to work through and with. I really wanted to get a Venom the Duck going. We've seen quite a bit of Venom the Duck being used by me in Variant 6. This is just Variant 6. It's got Venom the Duck's name written all over it. So been having lots of fun with him. He's really good for this one too because we get this extra damage while the defender is under the effects of bleed, which is the case. Venom the Duck applies bleed really easily. That's the same reason I brought Carnage for that first fight. Figured I can make quick work of it. Of course, I do want to take my time with Venom the Duck, as we have seen me use him, because I want to get his buffs up. So, my theory is that with this extra attack while they're under a bleed, and with a ramped up, buffed up Venom the Duck, late parts of this pass should be ridiculously easy, but of course, time will tell. One thing at a time, and that thing right now is build up my Venom the Duck with buffs in which I want that will help me throughout the quest. Again, as we've seen I like to do, I am using a little bit of extra S1s at the beginning of my fights in order to try to speed up my selection of buffs in which I'm going to go for. The more that come up, the more options I'm going to have over time. So I got 3 buffs there. Mostly satisfied with what I got. Just wanted to get through that fight, and we'll continue to build upon those buffs. Here we have an Ebony Maw. This one can also be a little bit tricky sometimes, was double checking that he was a metal. Sometimes I freak out some of the little tags on some of these individuals. So bringing Doom primarily for this fight, kind of like I brought Carnage just for that void. I'm expecting my Venom the Duck to run most of the path for me. However, I don't want to put him in bad matchups and lose him in a bad matchup. So like I brought my Carnage for the Void, I have brought Doom for the Ebony Maw. Got a little sloppy there, took a little damage. But my theory on using Doom for this fight is that it should be pretty easy to break the focus, because all I got to do is chain the heavy. Ebony Maw is kind of a tough one to stun parry heavy, so if I can just chain a heavy to the end of a medium while shock is going, that should help me drastically control those little falter thingy-majiggies, which can be rather annoying at times. Again, if I take some damage on Doom, I'm not expecting to need Doom for much other than this fight. So his main goal is get through this fight cleanly. Well, maybe not cleanly, but solo E, and I'll be happy and see that, oh, timing was just off on that falter. And that just, yeah, I missed that falter heavy by a millisecond, and that cost me my Doom. So He didn't get the solo, but that's okay. Like I said, all I needed him was for this fight. He got him down to hundreds of health, so one little hit there, and down he goes. So overall, I'll be satisfied with that fight. First couple fights, a little bit of issues, but nothing too much. But again, like I said, my Venom the Duck is going to get me through most of it. So if I lose a little bit of health or a champ along the way, it should not be detrimental to this path with somebody as forgiving as Venom the Duck. When I say forgiven, I mean once I get a regeneration buff going on him, which is going to be priority in this fight. I went ahead and moved past the first fight without a regeneration. But this fight I need to make sure I get one. So I got a Fury, which was another thing I really needed out of this fight. Because that is going to make sure I get him to how I need him. So I am just busting through Star-Lord really quick based on the nodes for doing extra damage during bleed. So I need to be careful on, I don't want to finish him up before I get the buffs I want. However, if I have to, I'll just have to get the buffs next node because I also don't want to get knocked out trying to get the buffs I want. And especially when I start getting close to being cornered, I got to be careful. So create a little space, really trying to hit into the block if I can to create that space. And I see another Fury there, so I'll happily bank that Fury. And with that being said, I'm up to 6 buffs. So my Venom the Duck, I still don't got a regeneration, which I would like to have at this point, but not mandatory. And at this point, between the nodes and between the little bit of ramp up, he's doing some very heavy damage. So we'll see him at 2 Fury, 2 Precision, and 2 Power Gain at this stage, which is a good amount. So I would like to have a regeneration, but I'll get one eventually. If not, I can just bust through these fights pretty heavy. I'm pretty strong armed at this point with Venom the Duck. As long as I don't make too silly of a mistake, should be fine. And Silver Surfer sometimes catches me off guard, so I figure just to end him quick. As much as I would have liked to try to get the extra buffs there, I decided it wasn't worth a potential hiccup. Double checking the nodes, and we'll see the poison vulnerability and the bleed vulnerability still, so that extra damage on the bleed, as I mentioned. Couldn't think of any villains off the top of my head that did good poison over time damage. Got several, got at least one, specifically Dr. Voodoo I would like, but he's a hero, so would not be good for variant 6. So I figured to go with the bleed. I got a few good bleed villains. You give me some extra power gain. So I'm getting a pretty offensively ramped up Venom the Duck at this point. And I got what I've been wanting for a little bit, so I'm happy to get this regeneration. I've been doing fine on the fight, so didn't need it desperately, but I do like to have that little safety net, especially while clearing a path with him. So my other champs I brought for this quest were pretty much collateral damage for one specific purpose. So I really am expecting Venom the Duck to do all the heavy work, so to have a little bit of regeneration for him will be heavily beneficial. At this point I decided if I get him to an S3 will be good, give me a little heal, and will help end this fight pretty quick as I get all my buffs back up. Got 8 of them, we're going to pop back up. And there we go. Kind of standing back as I let myself get a little bit of heal. I only got 1 regeneration right now, so that is fine. Now going on to the next fight, which is going to be Venom the Duck. Although got a little bit of lag, and there it goes. Nothing like a little hesitation as trying to move up on the path. So let's do some Venom the Duck versus Venom the Duck. The big difference here is mine has 8 buffs on it, his has 0. So this should be rather one-sided. Although I do want to double up, so now I got all my 10 buffs. That would have got me based on priority. That would have got me an extra regeneration and an extra fury, which is exactly what I would have wanted at this stage. So I'm very happy with how my Venom the Duck is ramped up. But now I want to get that S3 and reactivate those buffs, specifically get myself a little more health. I'm at 55%, which is fine because Venom the Duck does have a pretty good size health pool, especially at R3. So, but we're going to see, we'll see some decent regeneration going, even with only 2 regenerations banked. Again, the forgiving nature of him. So I'm trying to let some little more healing going, and I'll go ahead and wrap that up. So I'm back up into the 70s now. Get some more health at the start of the next fight. And if in seeing those nodes, then if it ain't broke, don't bother fixing it, right? Because Venom the Duck has been very clean for me, really, for most of Variant 6 thus far. We see I got a nice buff set up top. Look at that, 3-2-3-2, very pretty looking. I do have to be careful on those evades. We saw that Black Widow evade there. Forget those kind of sneak up out of nowhere sometimes. So I am going to try to be fairly careful because one mistake hit into the evade and getting countered can knock me down very, very quick. So I'll consider that evade as a warning. Be a little more cautious. Try to be a little more. Also got to be careful on those parries if they parry or not. So get through this fight. Don't make any careless mistakes. And there we go. Again, pretty easy work. Venom the Duck, only 28 hits for a pretty high health pool, and wasn't even doing anything massive there. Next up now is going to be Daredevil. So, disclaimer here, I did do a video on Daredevil offensively, how to use him, do like him. So I'm looking at Mastermind, Henchman, Biohazard, so the bleed that's going to hurt Venom the Duck use, a heavy hitter, dash vulnerability, aggressive. Okay, so I'm looking at these. I haven't fought him much since his buff, so I do know that I personally enjoyed the buff. I think I've been in the minority so far, but I think as people get more used to him, they'll like him more. However, time will tell. But I'm looking at the biohazard as the main thing here. Hopefully I have the horrible mistake of forgetting about biohazard and hitting into the block for poison. I do that a lot. I'll remember the bleed, but always forget the poison. So let's see. I'm thinking Magneto should be good here because of his bleed resistance. And with willpower up too, that should help as well. And Daredevil just, whoa, that just got ugly. I don't even know what happened. If something just happened, and yeah, thinking Magneto would be good, and gotta get used to the buff Daredevil. I guess he appears to be a little better on defensive than I was initially expecting. I think this is actually my first time fighting him since the buff, and seeing these nodes, and it is starting off really bad. So now I got myself cornered, had a horrible first fight. And so Venom the Duck, I'm not expecting Venom the Duck to do a ton based on this being a biohazard node, but really I'm using Venom the Duck right now to help me get a little familiarity because my first fight was a disaster. So try to get a little comfort with this with this Daredevil. The Purified is popping up, and that is making it a little more complicated. I'm getting some decent damage there. Unfortunately, with it being a biohazard, now I'm starting to get a little feel for him. Unfortunately, with the biohazard Venom the Duck, unless I could get back to that S3 quick enough, ain't gonna work. So let's go with Sentinel. Sentinel was my contingency plan for the snow when I saw his biohazard. My best bleed and poison villain. So figured I'd have him for this. And I was hoping I could get a little more done with my first 2 champs I used, but I really wanted to get a feel for them. I didn't want to go bring my Sentinel in right away, mess up, and then be stuck with non-great biohazard counters. So I figured I'd get a little feel. Was hoping to do a little better than I did on those 2 fights, and then I would go from there with Sentinel. So, oop, a little rush to get that long specials. Got a little impatient, kind of paid with the hit. So getting used to Daredevil's animation. His animation is kind of throwing me off a little bit. Maybe because it's kind of new from the buff. Maybe because this is my first series of fighting him in this variant since the buff. Just kind of long-winded. Kind of the pacing of it is kind of throwing me off a tiny bit. However, gets better through time. So I'm seeing that Special 2 from Sentinel seemed to work pretty nice. It was these Unstoppables. This is definitely the sloppiest boss fight I believe we will have seen for me in this variant so far. But again, the goal is to get through the quest item free. So as long as I get through this item free, I'm good. The problem is if I lose my Sentinel, I have a very low health Carnage left. I expected a little bit more firepower left at this stage in the path. Just kind of underestimated a couple things, specifically the Daredevil Hell's Kitchen. Kind of regretting not practicing a little bit in advance post buff. Wasn't expecting him to be. I'm so used to Daredevil being a punching bag on defense. Then not used to him being kind of a somewhat difficult defensive encounter. But Sentinel has been working very well. I made a couple mistakes, and it's mostly based on my unfamiliarity with some of his animations, specifically his specials. So chalked it up on me. Got some better familiarity now, and once I got a feel for, got a little practice out, boom, there he goes. Not pretty, nothing about 3.1. Oh, Venom the Duck was pretty for most of the path. But other than that, 3.1 was not the prettiest, but it got done. It got done item free, and as long as we don't use resources to get the job done, we're happy. So with that being said, time to go to 3.2. Looking at team, I brought a Green Goblin in for this node. If I use him or not, we'll see if I feel like he's a good fit. But based on the nodes that we're seeing here, specifically the Tyrant and the Weakness, I brought him in for that, but also heavy assault. So going to see me do a little bit more emphasis on heavies possibly based on the fight. Some champs are hard to do a lot of heavies on, at least parry heavies, which is the easier way, Kingpin. So if I see a chance to heavy on Kingpin from um, baiting a special or a heavy, counter to heavy, we'll go with that. Otherwise, I'm going to try to avoid parry heavies. So knowing Doom can chain a heavy to the after a medium applies that shock, I figured a Doom can probably be good for this fight, but I am realizing quickly that as some of the debuffs will shrug off on Kingpin quick, the same can be said with the shock. So I am seeing that. Therefore, I am going to have to be a little more cautious than I would like. I was hoping I could just kind of chain heavies off of stuns quicker, so I'm letting the shock to make sure if it doesn't get shrugged off so I don't get punished. So far, doing pretty fine. Still at 100% health despite a few early shrug offs. And I got him there, so I need to finish that up for the S1, get the health down, power down, I mean. Well, health too, I guess. I'm not. I would much rather have Kingpin throw an S1 than an S2, so I went ahead and did the other S1. S1's a lot easier to evade, but not just that. S2 ain't too bad, but S2 had the Unstoppable. I don't want to deal with his Unstoppable from the S2. And did pretty good overall with Doom. Got my Doom at 97% after that Kingpin, so I'm very satisfied with that because Kingpin's one of those fights usually not too bad, but it can get a little weird sometimes. So now, looking at the Karnak, double checking the nodes. Overload, Tyrant, Aggressive, Heavy Assault, and Buff Duration. Keep those in mind. So kind of deciding who I want to go with here. Again, I got to worry about parry heavies with Karnak possibly sometimes. I was going to bring my Green Goblin in here. This will be good, but I was a little concerned that he might get punished if a stun got shrugged off too quick. So I figured Sentinel might be a good fit. We saw Sentinel save me on the boss in 3.1. I haven't used Sentinel too much in Variant 6 despite him being a pretty good fit, but I've had a lot of good fits for a lot of good fights. And there hasn't been a whole lot of need for immunities. He's going to be pretty much my go-to on immunity necessities for any of Variant 6, especially Poison. Can't think of many, if any, other Poison immune villains, at least off the top of my head. Or maybe I'm used to using Poison immune heroes. Got my analysis complete. Now I just got to bait that S2, taking a little bit. Oop. Took a lot of block damage on that. Was a little delayed on my deck. Sometimes these different projectile, different speeds throw me off. I'd rather take a block than take a hit, so since I'll be a little bit slow on my evade. If I'm too fast on my evade, I'm going to take a hit. And I'd rather take a block than a hit. So I've already got my analysis charges, so no need to go too much into the hitting of the block other than a little bit of chip damage. But Sentinel's S2 should be a good use here. And we're seeing it looks like it's going to get the job done. Stopped at the 1, but there's a little hit knocked down. Sentinel got through that fight fairly decent, not too bad. Next up is Scarlet Witch. Scarlet Witch starts doing all these weird little debuffs, specifically poison, can hurt. We saw an earlier fight in Variant where I went against Scarlet Witch and just kept inflicting poison and draining me pretty hard. So I'm going to try to avoid that same mistake here. And I'm going to use a poison immune champ. I really was wanting to use Green Goblin on this fight because I really want to use him on this path. But as I get to the fights and look, I'm looking at other possibilities. And the possibility of having poison debuffs being stacked on me here got me a little worried. I don't want to lose a champ just yet in the path, because I'm not too sure what to expect later in this path. And remembering about some heavies there, so get some shock damage going on. First couple fights, couldn't rely too much on parry heavy, so kind of forgot for a minute I can get some advantage on launching heavy, so kick back up in my head. So now that I'm on champ, I don't have to worry too much about them shrugging off the stun debuff too quick. Can get back into that and see some pretty good damage going there. Alright, so that 5-1 pretty smooth, so I'm happy with my choice on Sentinel there. Now here, going to be looking at moving on down. Going to go to Wolverine. So I'm kind of debating here on which one I want to do. Double checking the nodes. And again, talked myself out last second of using Green Goblin, who I think will be great for this path. However, it's a metal champ. So let's go Magneto here. Plus I can get advantage on heavies, which is what he does anyway. So heavies and metal. I mean, look at that. 33,000 damage heavies. Oh, got smashed by an unstoppable. I don't even remember that being in the nodes. So I might have overlooked something. I'm not 100% sure what caused that unstoppable. Oh, you know what? Maybe it was heavies are unstoppable now that I think about it. So I'll have to remember that. But anyways, Magneto is destroying this fight as expected. I mean, beyond destroyed. Very simple, only 16 hits, and didn't even do a whole lot of anything fancy. Didn't do anything fancy. Got a little lag as I'm trying to move, and here we go now to Venom. Figure a Doom should be good here. Nothing else got the class advantage. Yeah, unstoppable heavies. I got to be careful on that. Sometimes I get caught off guard by those. Got him at S2. Venom's S2 does annoy me. I feel like the timing just gets weird, and yeah, I should have just took the block damage there. There'll be times I'll evade that S2 perfectly 20 times in a row. Then there'll be times 5 times in a row I'll take some hits on it. It's just, I don't know what happens with me on that S2, but so be it. That was definitely one of those. Took it in the head. But now we will go ahead and S3 Venom. Alright, I need to get my power control going. There we go. And he is an aggressive Venom, isn't he? He is just going, so I just want to try to end this fight. Launch that S2, and there we go. Because that fight was not pretty, but at least got it over. Going into Mordo now. So this fight was brought Void specifically for this fight primarily. Thinking Void should be good here. Double checking he's not metal. Which he's not. Always double check just in case. And so let's go ahead. I'm going to try to play somewhat mellow. I tend to get more aggressive attacker a lot of the time, so it's hard for me to kind of go easy on Void, who's a lot of the times be a better playstyle, being a little more passive. Which is why I used to actually hate Void. He's grown on me recently. I really like him. He just good use of him just goes against my normal, natural play instincts on this game. So got to kind of adjust it a little bit. And we're starting off fine. Got to be careful on those power gains on Mordo. Obviously, I don't want to be doing no hidden to after a parry, so trying to avoid that. You'll see me play a little more intercepty or a little bit more baity here. Trying not to get punished by Mordo, who's usually a pretty simple champ as long as you fight him correctly and don't make a stupid mistake like that. And that was just bad. And that is going to make me suffer that after having my timing off by a millisecond on that S1, main chain effect there made me lose a lot of health. So see what else I can do on this fight here. Hopefully finish it off. Had to do a lot of damage with only 3% health and went ahead and thankfully got the solo, so I'm happy with that. That was Void's main purpose for this path. He accomplished it, so I'm good. But I am looking at my team, and I've lost a lot more health than I would like at this point. So my Doom is low. Looking Overload, Tyrant, Aggressive, Heavy Assault, buff duration. But I'm thinking Doom is my best bet on this based on what I'm currently working with. I was, again, heavily looking at my Green Goblin. Really probably should have, but I did talk myself out against it because of the class disadvantage. So I really brought Green Goblin in here thinking he was going to be really good, have a little fun with him, and I haven't even used him yet. So I need to do the best I can. Again, I brought a very low health Doom into this fight. Got to be careful of Carnage's specials and blockables. So if I play smart, I should be good. So I'm trying to be a little bit careful. Again, have to make sure I don't get caught up on the unstoppable heavies, which is force of habit. Sometimes I rush on in trying to punish heavies and forget about the unstoppables. And so far this fight has been going very well overall. I'm just trying to hopefully finish it off. And there we go. So Doom came through in clutch for me to get through that fight when I've been having a non-ideal run in this path. And good thing I kept my Doom because I got Hyperion left, and he's really my only good option for this. So I got a ridiculously low health Doom, but I'm going to do as much as I can with him and hope it works out fairly decent. Because once my Doom goes down, this fight could get a little bit rougher. So in hindsight, having an extra power control champ or not relying as much on Doom early on in the content would have been a smarter aspect. If I had used my Green Goblin I brought for a couple of fights instead of Doom, I would have been in a better position here. But thankfully, Doom can own Hyperion pretty well, and some of these heavy nodes advantages is, you look at that 39,000 backhands, 39,000 hit power. That is nice. And uh, Doom just completely owned this fight. So I was a little nervous bringing a 9% Doom into this fight against Hyperion. One mistake, you never know what happens. However, went in with 9%, left with 9%. So you gotta love that. So moving on up, again, taking a little look at my team, a little rough looking, a little beat up. So I'm looking here, and I'm about to finally use my Green Goblin, and then I see that there's the bleed here on Caltrops. So, yeah, some bad planning on some of these fights for me. Based on the bleed on Caltrops, I have very little option at this point, at least good options, other than to bring Sentinel. Gonna definitely be my best option for this. Hitting the block, trying to get those analysis up. Oh, and there we go. Get some more to the block. Sentinel's S2 tends to do pretty nice. Like that Incinerate. It can hit into some more block. See some regeneration. I don't even remember the regeneration unless it was, oh no, it's probably the other every 15 seconds. Sometimes there's so many nodes on these, and as you go through different paths, they rotate and get him confused a little bit. And I kind of rush through them. I don't spend too much time doing the nodes, kind of go with it as I go, try to keep them more natural and organic. And occasionally it backfires for sure. But it's more fun like that. Can't be too scripted on this game, takes all the fun out. I've almost got my 100 charges. I see an opportunity, and there we go. Analysis complete. Oh, and I just got too excited about my analysis complete and took a kick to the groin and head all in one swoop heavy. That is like insult to injury. And there we go. Hawkeye got all a little aggressive on me as I was kind of thrown off by his all of a sudden assertiveness. Mistimed the evade. So this fight has not been too pretty. Not horrible, but not too pretty. And working on trying to end it. Got to bait out that S2. And got an evade there. Fight is almost over. Launched an S1. Try to finish it off. And there we go. So my Sentinel's pretty on low health now too. Pretty much my entire team is very low health other than Green Goblin, who I originally brought thinking I would have him clear a lot of the path and haven't even bothered to touch yet. So miscalculated for sure. I am going to try Green Goblin though on some exploration on this 3.2 though, because I am curious what he can do anyway on the weakness debuff. So I'm looking here. I got a Joe Fix It, which is usually a pretty simple champ. Tyrant, Madness, Monster, so then block one passive. Okay, special 1 bias. Superior special 2. The prowess strikes back, heavy hitter. So we got so many. I ain't gonna remember all these buffs. I love when they stack a bunch of buffs and expect me to have a buff photographic memory, but I am taking a few extra seconds. I know I do not have a whole lot of extra room to work with here, so I have to take my time a little bit more to avoid any issues. So I am going to use Magneto first to test it out, see how it goes. Hopefully can do a lot of damage with Magneto. Um, but I decided to test out Joe Fix it first so I can bring in my full health Green Goblin to finish him off if needed. I did not want to risk bringing in my only full health champ first and making a mistake and losing him and then being in a world of hurt trying to finish it off with a bunch of low health champs. So check it out first, but it looks like working kind of nice thanks to the unstoppable regeneration. Magneto appeared to be, I was really bringing him in just to kind of feel him out, but it's looking like he's going to be a great fit for this fight. As I get free healing. And now I'm just going to kind of take my time. Again, I got to be kind of careful on this boss. I did not leave myself a lot of wiggle room for mistakes at this point. Usually I'll have several full champs left at this stage. And even though I think all my champs or most of my champs are still alive, they're all pretty low health. Most of them. And again, I'm not using any items. That includes no boosts, no health pods, no revives, none of that stuff. So I do have to be wary of low health champs. But this is working out. This node is working out perfect for Magneto. I'm just able to pretty much keep. I brought my Magneto in half health or so, and it got him up to full health thanks to the nodes, and I'm pretty much able to keep him there. So get a little more confident. The problem is when I get a little too confident, especially when I know I get extra free health pretty much on command, I tend to get a little cocky and make mistakes. So hopefully I can avoid anything too silly of a mistake on myself. I can't be my own worst enemy sometimes, I will admit. And I prefer to get his S2 out as much as I can because it's super easy to evade. His S1 is wild bullets everywhere. I'm not even going to try to evade that one right now. And so I'm just going to try to work him up. He is non-metal, so my special is going to take a little bit longer than a metal champ, but as we see, we're still getting some decent attack on him, even as a non-metal champ. So should work overall. Make the fight a little bit longer, but nothing too brutal. And wrapping up again. Remember, I have 3 videos of Variant 6 out. One for each chapter. So I have my variant 6 chapter 1, which has 1 1 and 1 2. I have my variant 6 chapter 2 has 2 1 2 2, and I have my variant 3, this one, which is 3 1 3 2. Walks through the past, all of them completely item free. A few of them have all solos along. I know the chapter 1 did at least. See some clean fights, see a few mistakes, but learn from the mistakes for when you go through. But even despite the mistakes, see them being overcome to get through entire one completion of all 6 quests completely item free. So you saw what worked. Use those to your advantage. And remember to subscribe, like, get notifications on, because if you're new to watching my channel, I do these kind of things pretty often lately over the past several months, to include with EQ Cavalier, new variants, try to give item-free walkthroughs to help you get through them. So it's nice to have somebody scout them out for you, show you what works so you can get through a lot cleaner. Otherwise, this game could get kind of frustrating at times. And now we're down to 8% health on Joe Fixit. Magneto has completely owned this fight. Again, I brought Magneto in just to kind of test the waters, expecting to use my Green Goblin, who ended up becoming a wasted roster spot, but that's because of some of my own bad fighting choices. And Magneto came into this fight at 50%, and he is going to end it at pretty close to 196. And there we go, a nice boss solo. Pretty easy boss, actually. Oh, especially with somebody like Magneto, who can, with that node, get healing on command. So got full completion there. Got a little lag, is waiting for those rewards to pop up. And just so you know what I got, we will see, we do get the R5 there. I actually pulled a Mystic out of that, and I used that to R5 my Dragon Man, by the way. I have a Dragon Man tutorial up, and pretty soon you're going to see some R5 Dragon Man as well play.